not sure anybody will come back. Hey, you've got this part of the video. You've got the live unedited edition Home Gadget Geeks Thursday night. It's the 15th of January, 2026. First time I have said 2026. Christian was supposed to join me in December. I got really sick in December, had to cancel. Christian, you were kind enough to say, you'll come back. You're back. It's been a while. We've made it through the holidays. Welcome back.
Good to be back. I got the value of getting the show number of my choosing. So,
well, sort of. You just
sort
didn't
of
get
avoided
666.
Correct. Yeah. So we'll take it amidst your misfortune, and thank you for your service.
Yeah, Jay filled in for you on 666. We did that one the week after, and it took me a full 4 weeks to get my head clear. I mean, I didn't plan it this way, but that whatever that cold is that's going around, the sickness of it was short-lived. Hey, Ken, thanks for checking in. The sickness part of it was short-lived. Brian, there's Ken checking in. Brian's checking in as well. Thanks for coming out, guys. Hang tight. We'll get started here in a few minutes. But the cold part of it, the stuffiness hung around for about 4 weeks. So I was kind of glad I just got rid of it maybe first of the year and feel kind of back to normal again. So, and then I understand the flu is the real thing this year. Apparently the flu vaccination, they didn't get the right one or whatever it was.
COVID needed to take a break. Yeah.
And so everybody who's getting, I'm hearing it's not a good strain to have this year. So wash your hands, friends. You don't want this flu if you can all avoid it. How's Christmas for you?
It was good.
How are things? Yeah.
It was good. Yeah. Our first Christmas with Judah. So that was a fun experience. And my wife and I looked at each other and said, why did we wrap all of these presents again? But it was definitely a lot of fun.
It is. You asked that question. You probably could even get away with it next year. Like you probably till 2 or 3, they don't really have like the concept, right? Then it starts to be real.
Yeah.
Then you got to figure out ways to tell them why we do this thing or whatever it is, however you decide to do it, right?
Yeah, it was definitely insightful for us as well as newbies at this. So
were you home? Did you go back to Buffalo for Christmas? Did you do it from home?
No, we ended up staying local because we had to travel for a wedding a couple days, actually the day after Christmas. So we kind of hunkered down, but my folks made it out this way before Christmas, so that helped quite a bit. So yeah,
they're doing well. I assume they're doing okay. Good.
Yeah, everyone's doing really well. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. I'm sure your dad loves being a grandpa.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Is this first?
Fourth.
Is this the first one? Oh, fourth. Oh, okay. So that's right. Your sister's had a couple, right?
Right.
Yeah. So he's this old hat. He's like,
yeah. He's like, four boys too, by the way. So.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. You guys have your hands full.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, yeah.
Mine aren't as full, but yeah.
Well, I had four boys in a row and then a girl. It's survivable. You can do it.
Yeah.
It can be done. But great. Well, I'm sure that was fun to have them first Christmas, get through all those things, and then it's just then back to work, right?
Yeah. Oh, reality comes crashing back.
Here's the hardest part for me. Like you take this time off, and I didn't take 2 straight or 3 straight weeks. I worked a couple days, I took a couple days off, and then I'd go in and work a day just because clear stuff. And I have stuff that comes in whether it's a holiday or not. It's with the certified coach community. So do some work. And that's kind of the way I like it. I don't, if I get away, I start getting I know this sounds weird, but I get a little bored if I'm away from work for too long. But there is that Monday, the 5th this year, where you're like, oh no, I have to work 5 days in a row. Like what? Oh, maybe I'll take Wednesday off. You don't get a deal, right? Right.
Yeah.
It's tough coming back after the holidays. Fortunately, I think we have a holiday Monday, so that'll be it's nice. And then there's a long drought, right? Or is President's Day a thing? It's just I think that's turned into a bank holiday though.
Or I'm sorry. Yeah.
I'm not sure it's a federal Easter, but that's not even really a holiday either. Maybe it's Memorial Day after that. Valentine's Day isn't a day off. The spring is
No.
especially it's
MLK is what's on Monday.
right. That's Monday,
That's
right?
yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think President's Day is in February. But I think that's a federal thing
I don't. Yeah, I
only.
don't get. I don't think I
I
get
don't
that
think we
one.
get the day off
Nope.
anymore. We used to,
Yeah.
but that has been that's not that way anymore. And then Easter comes around, but that's a Sunday, so you don't really, it's just a drought till May. It's painful.
Yeah, it is. It
Fortunately, the
is.
kids get spring break and some of those kinds of things. But well, if you join us live, and there's a few of you out there checking in the chat room. I saw Ken and I saw Joe out there. Good to see you guys. I'm assuming that's Joe. I think that is. Yeah. And we'll get started here in just a second. Have to get back into the swing of things, figure out how to do stuff again. 5 weeks away from the microphone. Felt good. I didn't do any podcasting at work either, which was kind of nice. So it was a nice long break.
Nice.
All right, let's dive in. We'll guys listening live. We'll have I have to do not have to. I get to do a LePro review right up front. So if you guys have some questions, throw those in chat. They'll appreciate that. They provided these lights for me. They're pretty cool, but I'd love some of your comments in the chat just so we can show the engagement as we go forward. We'll catch up with Christian. So, all right, let me kick this thing off. Here we go. This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 667 with guest Christian Johnson, recorded on January 15th, 2026. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting from the AverageGuy.tv studios here in a beautiful Bellevue, Nebraska. It's beautiful because it's winter, but it's not that cold. I don't know, Christian, about you up there in the Maryland area. It's been unseasonably easy as a winter. Maybe are you feeling that at all, or is it just Nebraska?
I don't know. It's certainly we've had some interesting warm spikes. We've only had one brief cold spell so far, and no real snow to deal with. So yeah, maybe that's right so far.
I know, and it's mid-January, and you're kind of thinking, well,
Yeah.
there's maybe 8 weeks of winter,
Right.
possibility. And you get that occasional weird storm in April. We've had it snow as late as May. But I'm kind of feeling good about the winter. I just jinxed it, and that's now we're gonna get crushed. Well, anyways,
make sure your HVAC is tuned up. We just installed a brand new one, and I'm put in a cold climate, Dave Lennox signature, and
nice.
I'm like, on the one hand, happy with that. On the other hand, I'm like, when will the cold climate arrive?
No, that guarantees it's never going to get cold again.
Yeah.
I bought a generator. No, power hasn't gone out since.
We'll never go out again.
Nope.
That's right.
No, it always works that way. Well, we'll post the show with some world-class show notes out at theaverageguy.tv. Big thanks to our Patreon subscribers. If you want to join that team, there's a few spots open there for you. Bob Carpenter just recently joined us, and you can too. Head out to theaverageguy.tv/Patreon if you want to join that team. $5 plans, do it for 1 month or as long as you want to hang around on the team. Listen, many of you have been on that Patreon team forever. I appreciate you guys doing that. So thanks for all those who do that. And then if you're purchasing, I know the holidays are over, but we're still not buying gadgets, right? Everybody's still buying gadgets. Those things you didn't get for Christmas, head out to theaverageguy.tv, of course, powered by Maple Grove Partners. Don't forget about that. Head out to theaverageguy.tv, click on there's an Amazon affiliate link. You just click through it. You don't have to do anything else, and we benefit from that as well. Christian Johnson's back. Christian, I'm supposed to have you for 666. You alluded that earlier. That was going to be the 15th anniversary of Home Gadget Geeks. We're gonna talk a little bit about LePro lighting here in just a second, but let's dive in. 15 years.
Yeah.
We've been doing this 15. What? I've been doing it not every week, but most weeks. You've been on again, off again over the last decade or so. How's that make you feel? 15 years.
Old. But at least we could probably have AI take like a thumbnail from every single episode and stitch it together and be like, this is how much older you now look. And it would be easy to do. It wouldn't be a hard experiment now. So
yeah, that would be crazy, wouldn't it? Maybe the both of us. I had darker hair.
Yeah.
You were a lot younger.
Create one of those like white book flip pages where you flip one page at a time and that'd be kind of fun.
Good use of AI, maybe. Speaking of AI, this is a miracle. Tony Rayner and John Biggs here at the same time. and unbelievable. So, gentlemen, thank you for being here. I know you guys. I thought maybe at some point you guys were the same guy, but good to have you both here. Yeah, 15 years. Hey, big thanks to our listeners, whether you've been listening for the last year or you've been here since the beginning, or you listen to me. And I think you were on Home Server Show. Were you? Did we ever have you on Home Server Show?
Yep.
Did you ever? You
That
made
was
that show?
actually how we originally got connected, was a guest appearance on Home Server
Yeah.
Show in 2011.
Did Zadler find you? Was that the? I think Zadler found you somewhere,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Was it through BIOS mods?
It was actually the original Magic Wake on Land for Windows Home Server
Yeah, that's
plugin for
right.
Server 2003. And I think
That's right.
Johnny was one of the first customers, and then was like, wait a second, you need to come on this show.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I remember him talking to me. Hey, Bust Out says he's here too. So thanks for coming out. Um, I remember him saying, I was chatting with him on a Saturday or something, and he's like, I met this kid. He's like 15 and he's doing all this cool stuff. You got to meet him. I remember that day
yeah.
and him talking to me about that. We had you on and met you. Then we started talking and started digging in, and I said, "Hey, let's start our own show," kind of thing. And super fun. 15 years later, here we are.
And then hosting Average Guy has been a great experiment into building out hosting hardware, which is kind of sad in some ways now too, because as much as I love doing the hosting for the Average Guy and other communities, it's almost impossible to host like AI in your basement, like the model of 15 years ago when we were doing the Average Guy in your basement type hosting. Is just the economy of scale power wise is just a little bit different.
Yeah.
So yeah, consumer grade hardware is going to get interesting. I mean, if you think about NVIDIA announced at the CES conference this year their Vera Rubin platform, which was impressive because it normally, when a chip manufacturer does a redesign for next generation, they don't change all the chips at once. They usually change maybe one or two, but like doing 6 or 8 altogether is kind of like crazy. And of course, that's exactly what they did. And so from Blackwell to Vera Rubin was like this insane amount of, I think it's like 250 terabytes per second interconnect. I don't remember the full statistics, but it's like what is in one rack of Vera Rubin is almost like 5x Blackwell. And they're the cooling technology that they used, I think, has helped them have this massive 5x. But it's like when you look at the generational jump they made in one move of enterprise NVIDIA AI hardware, and then compare that to the level of move on the retail side, where it's like, you want to go buy a 5090 GPU, you can go buy a 5090 GPU, but like, are you really going to be excited about the 6090 GPU that there's no real anything about anything to discuss?
Yeah.
Probably not. And so in some ways, the consumer and retail side hardware is getting much less love as a result.
Yeah, no, for sure, right? I mean, we've seen RAM prices just go through the roof. Hard drives, same, not as much, from a percentage. But I was tracking hard drive prices for a long time because of the Chia that I mine, and then it was getting down. We got almost to $1 a terabyte, or $10 a terabyte, something like that. And it bounced to that level for a moment, and then it was gone. And it was back up 30 or 40%, whatever. RAM is out of control, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not building systems. I was glad 2 years ago when I built my system, I put 120 gig of RAM in it, just filled it out. I'm glad I did. Like, I wouldn't want to try to buy that for whatever reason, and have to come across that. From a hosting standpoint, when we think of Maple Grove Partners, is this affecting you guys at all? From it's just a cycle. You're just going to wait through it. There may be some cheap hardware on the backside. I don't know, any thoughts on
Yeah.
that?
I mean, you're kind of crazy to chase DDR5 RAM right now unless you're doing high-end AI applications. Like
and
you
somebody
can,
else is paying for
yeah,
it.
someone else would pay for that.
Right.
But certainly, like you can get really plenty capable systems for most web hosting use cases in the DDR4 generation still. And so um, you're going to pay a fraction and still meet most application demands that are needed. And if you
Yeah.
need to scale those, just get more DDR4 based things.
But it's pulling the price of DDR4 up too, right? With
It
it too,
is,
right?
but it's still like an order of magnitude
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, interesting times.
Joe says he had a client gift him a server with 192 gig of RAM, DDR4, right, and air crushing. Might take the rest of the year.
Yeah,
I'll just sell that thing.
take the gift.
And then Bust Out said had a hard time getting a replacement 128 gig SSD when one of my Proxmox bucks started dying, and yeah, it's created a little bit of a bottleneck in supply chain as folks are focusing. Who was it that decided they were just going to do commercial grade stuff, and I forget the name of it now. I should know that. I just heard it today. One of the chip makers said, peace out, consumers. We'll be back. We'll be back when the AI boom is over, right? And so for us builders, for us system builders, that gets a little bit it's getting a little bit dicey out there. Listen, I would think most of us are in pretty good shape to just sit tight, let this bubble do its thing, right? There may be some good opportunities for those who wait on the back end. I'm thinking of Maple Grove Partners. Christian, if you guys wait through this, there could be on the back end of this thing, there could be a glut, which would
Yep.
benefit you, right?
Definitely. I mean, at some point, I want to hope that um, we get to a place that the algorithms either gain efficiency or the demand curve go like there's actually a couple different reasons demand could go down. One of them could be just the sheer electricity is currently the limiting factor, not chip production. So like
Yeah.
if backlogs remain high because data centers can't land these things fast enough, then that may create enough excess supply to then drive down costs for quite some time. Alternatively, the algorithms get more efficient, and then memory demand gets lower. I have a feeling that's not going to be the case for a while, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's going to take, this won't be tomorrow. I think it's going to take us a good part of the year to work through this to see what happens. You never know. I lived through the .com bubble, and it was great until it wasn't. And one day it just, you don't know. It's like everything's great and everybody's optimistic and this sounds great. And then a piece of news or two comes out, and I remember when the bubble burst with .com, feeling it actually like, oh, this feels different. And the market pulls back a little bit and everybody starts warning. And then there's this, oh, maybe this isn't it. And so then people buy back in thinking it was just a bounce, and then it's not. It just flushes out. And I lived through that. I mean, I've lived through the financial crisis of 2008, and that same, the market's same for different reasons, right? Totally different reasons. But everything, we keep talking about this bubble, this AI bubble, and people are just, and this is almost the sign of a bubble when people are like, no, I think this is sustainable. And you're kind of like, I don't know how it can be, right? And so it buckle up, friends. Especially for us, most of the folks who listen to this, you're in the consumer space or you're working as a sysadmin in an organization. The thing about both the .com bubble and it was a housing crisis in 2008, right? But led to other things. We're back on the other side, right? And so this too shall pass. Just don't make stupid decisions. I always say when it's falling, don't make dumb decisions. Don't make any decisions if you don't have to, right?
Yeah.
So I think we've got some interesting days ahead for this and how AI goes. So, speaking of AI, I promised the guys over at LePro. I put the link in the chat to some whole house lighting, permanent outdoor lights. And Christian, let me ask you this question. I don't want to say you're a new homeowner because you bought that house a while ago.
5 years ago now. Yeah.
That's 5 years, right? Right. Was it
Yep.
during the pandemic?
3 days after. Yeah.
Oh,
Yep. Good times. Good times.
that's crazy to think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So 5 years ago, it's just 5 years ago. Christmas lights. This is when we think about outdoor house lighting, Christmas is what kind of kicks it off, but there's other applications for it. I'm seeing more and more folks do lights at different times of the year. Have you gone down that route of hanging them or buying them?
It's funny because I felt like I had all I could do to get Christmas lights on the Christmas tree this year and get the Christmas tree in before Christmas. So short
Yeah.
answer, no. We've done lots of landscaping lights, which are like M16 LED type bulbs, but we haven't gotten to the point of like what is depicted here, where you're gonna run around the house and do all the light hanging. So
Yeah. One of the things, I have tried over the years to do, I would wait till after Christmas and I would buy the Christmas lights on clearance,
mm,
right? Because that's the best time, December 27th is the best time to buy Christmas lights. Couple years ago, Philips came out with some inexpensive Christmas lights that were also, uh, you could choose the colors, right? See what's on screen here. You could set, I don't know, let's say 8 different routines of different kind of color palettes that you want to put on there. So there were different color combinations, red, white, and blue, right? That obvious of 4th of July here in the United States, or oranges for Halloween, or magenta colors for Easter kind of deal, right? They had these preset colors, but it was still in that green. You know what I'm talking about? The greenhouse light form factor. The wires that if you
mhm,
kind of
mhm.
blow on them,
Yeah,
and
yeah. Is
they
it gonna turn
disintegrate.
on? Is this the year?
Yeah, you're like, how long are they going to last?
Yeah.
There's been a trend in LePro. I'll throw the link. It's in the chat here for the live folks, and throw it in the show notes as well, so you guys can see it. LePro reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you review or would you put up some of these lights if we sent them to you?" And I said, "Yeah." Now, don't get me wrong. Like anything along the lines of whole house lighting, and what I'm showing, the package I'm showing, they come in 50-foot increments, right? So it's about $100 a foot. So 50 foot would be 100, 200 for the 100 foot, then 150 foot, about 300. And but large, and let me, when you think of this lighting, let's see if they got a picture of those on there. I don't think they do. I have a picture of them that I'll show you here in just a second. But pretty large, if you think about like a silver dollar size lights, right? These are hefty. They've got stickers on the back that you can stick them onto your house if you want to. They have a loop that you can put a screw in, so if you want to screw them into the house. You'll see a picture here in just a second. I ended up in my eaves. I didn't want to permanently attach them to my eaves because I wasn't sure this is where I wanted them to go. And those eaves are vinyl siding, and I didn't want to put a bunch of holes in my vinyl siding. So I took some shims and I just put them on the end of shims, and I slid the shims into the vinyl siding so that they're fixed, but that it wasn't a permanent fixing. I can move those on. I'll actually probably pick up some some heavier shims and adjust those. But you can see here, when we think about whole house lighting, you can get kind of crazy. And you're like, yeah, Jim, but your house doesn't look like that. So maybe it does, though. Hold on. Let me replace that with this. I went out the other night then and took some home videos of this. We'll throw that up in the share. And you can kind of see this is my house. And you saw those pictures online and you're like, "Oh, that's somebody else's house." No, this is actually pretty doable. Now, Christian, this was a 2-hour setup for me. I'll be honest, I didn't do the high eaves, right? I
Okay.
was like,
Yeah.
we're
That
gonna
that
keep
would be one of my challenges. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, I'm gonna keep these kind of low. There are services, there's folks you can pay to install these for you, but I think they're intended to be kind of installed on a permanent basis. You can see the solar panels there. There's a good shot of the solar panels and the lights moving around. It gives me an opportunity to put those um, to show that off. Maybe 2 hours of install at this point. So out with a ladder, plugging these in, putting them on the shims, getting in the right place, bringing them down. They've got some sections of wire where if you want to go some distance in between a section or two, you can insert those in. They've got different controls for them. All 150 feet that you saw there, I'll play that again. All 150 feet you saw there, 30 watts of power draw on that. So, when we think about the efficiency of LCD and LCD lighting, 30 watts, not bad for that kind of, setup. I don't know, Christian, after seeing this and thinking about your own, well, and let me also say each one of these lights is also addressable. So I could go in, I'll show you in the app here in a second. I could go in and set these to permanent brightness or light color or whatever. So they're always the same. I'll show you on the app here in a second. But as you see this, does this give you any ideas of like, if you're going to do some lighting on your place, do you go this route instead of maybe doing what you're doing before?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. In my case, I wasn't doing anything before, so this is
Yeah.
inspiration. One of the things that I joke about is that it is almost your video is almost doing the exact color pattern right now of my keyboard, just as more of a rainfall. So it reminds me a lot of the same style of RGB activities that you can do with computer hardware. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, they're very neat. Certainly, LEDs are from a longevity standpoint, I think a much better investment than buying the lights that keep failing every couple of years. And so, but also the programmability of this to do customizations, I think is pretty unique. So
yeah,
pretty intrigued by the fact that you can get as nerded out as you want with programming the individual lights. So
yeah, if you want to dig in, you can come in. They showed this on the app. You can come into the DIY spot and kind of customize everything. Now, be super transparent with you. I'm not a DIY customize everything kind of guy. But you could, if you wanted to control everything, set your own colors, set them, control them, set them up, brightness, dimness.
How many presets does it come with?
Well, it's kind of unlimited presets. So like on the AI, and of course, this everything's AIified right at this point, but you can come in and either with your, you can either type it in, or if you and say what kind of lighting you want. So like I could say, let me come in here and say, I'll just say Star Wars. So give me some Star Wars lighting, right? So then it's going to come up and give me some AI options for, okay, this is its interpretation of what you're saying with Star Wars. And so I can click on that, take me over to the AI side of things, and it's going to give me 7 or 8 presets on what its interpretation of Star Wars lighting could look like. So I've got some moving lights here. I've got a snake, we'll call it, right? Some maybe minimalist lighting that's here, and you just can choose any one of these. This is live in my setup. So as I click on this right now, it's now outdoors changing to those colors. What's kind of interesting about this is my granddaughter was over on last Friday night or last Saturday night. And I said, hey, you want to play with the new outside lights? And we just sat there and put up one AI thing after another. She picked different colors. If you want to save them, you can. So you can come in here and you can edit that if you want to drop in and choose different colors on that preset. You can do that, and then just save it as your own setup, right? And you can always come back. The presets are pretty unlimited that way, and you come back and choose if you've got something you like. You can go back and grab it.
Does it have a music integration at all?
Yeah, so that's a super great question. Almost like I set you up for that. So you can come in with the music piece here, and in this case, it's pulling it off of the microphone. Okay, so my phone is right here. It's pulling it off the microphone from my phone. I don't have a mic outdoors on this one thing. So you're seeing as I'm talking here, the lights are moving, right? So it's listening from a music standpoint. So if we were playing music, my phone was outside, it would pick up that music and play those things. Do the lights associated with it. I'll be honest with it. I haven't dug in to figure out, or there's some ways to do that. Certainly during the 4th of July here in the United States, as we're firing off fireworks, it'd be cool if it was timed to some of those fireworks. Or if you're playing music, and I haven't done that yet, of timing it with the music, so to speak. So the AI piece gives you some flexibility on that. If you can you don't have to choose anything, pick it, click the button, and you're off to the races from it. Comes with a pretty hefty power setup. It's got a transformer that's outdoor rated, so that I installed that on the deck. It's got a on-off switch on the outside as well that I put up underneath the overhang, so it's protected and covered. It's weatherproof, so you can be rest assured you can put this outside even in cold conditions. I think IP67 or something rated on that. You can get more details on it. LePro, LePro, provided this to me, just to be super clear with that. But Christian, it was one of those setups that I'm like, and I'll be honest with you, my neighbor did this with another brand. Govee plays in that space a little bit too, and there's some different options with that. He did it first, and I thought, oh, and so when they asked, I was like, yeah, this would be kind of fun. So we have neighborhood battles now. Who can have the coolest outdoor, outdoor lighting? You saw, I think, in the chat. Let me see if I can find that. So Bust Out said, hold on, let me get to the chat piece here. Come down. He said, nice recharging with the solar Christmas lights to recover some of that light. You saw I've got my solar panels out on the front of the deck. Of course, I brought the lights around the solar panels, and I actually installed a bunch of them with zip ties. Like, I didn't want to permanently install these, so I just zip tied them onto some things and snipped the zip tie, and put it on either end. They've got little round lights, and then the wires come off on either side. Just zip tie them on, and you could put them up, because this would be honestly one of those gadgets that you would like, hey, I'd like to try this on my house before I I permanently start installing this.
Yeah.
Now,
in that other view on that app, there was a section for photos. Is that so that you can upload a photo and it can pull the colors out from that photo?
Okay. Correct. Yeah. So you can give it a color palette, say match this color palette, which, you'd think like maybe you see somebody else's house that's doing this. And you're like, oh, I really like those colors.
It's a pretty attractive deal. I mean, it looks like they have the right features to have some fun with it. So
yeah, good stuff. So big thanks to LePro for sending those out. And I'll include the link to their website I don't have an affiliate thing there, but you can check out the information on that as well. Super cool, like home gadget that, we're home gadget geeks. This is maybe one of those home gadgets. Christian, I saw one of, I was watching videos on different people as I was setting this up, right? I was watching videos of how other people were setting this up and some of the cool things they were choosing to do. And I watched a guy take the strip lighting, and LePro also has some of that strip lighting, but they took the strip lighting LEDs and put them around their garage doors, and just around the frame on the garage door on the inside, and then set up proximity sensors. So when the vehicle, so this was tied to the guy's phone, when he pulled up in his driveway with his phone, the geofencing said, "Oh, he's home," and it lit up the garage. Lit up the garage. The outline of the garage, which I thought was another super cool idea on lighting. Is I was thinking about these lights. I also thought since they're addressable, each one of the lights is addressable. You could display them in whatever you want to do till say 10 o'clock, and then it could maybe switch over to a mode where it goes into a security mode, and maybe just certain lights are on, so you're not having them all on, but you're getting your security areas. I know you ever feel like in your house there's just some areas you want
Yeah,
lit,
100%.
you know?
I mean, it's
Yeah.
one of the nice pieces about landscape lighting too. It's like even from an outside perspective, there are areas that you just want lit that
Yeah.
ordinarily aren't. But um,
Yeah.
also in houses, I feel like there's such a I don't know. Maybe this is just a me problem, but it has taken me a long time to have opinions about what color bulbs do you want where in the house, and are you
Oh.
going to use them consistently across, and like are you that 5,000 Kelvin kind of person or that candlelight colored kind of person, and which colors are right for which rooms, and it's not I find it's not as easy as you would think.
Yeah, and your spouse may this is our case. Sarah likes a different hue than
Right,
I like.
right,
She's like, "Oh, that thing it gives me a headache at
right.
that, at that temperature, so to speak." I'm like, "Oh, I kind of like that temperature." You know? Right?
Yeah,
Right? And here's the crazy thing. I don't think, a couple years ago, 10 years ago, we didn't care for the most part. You could by the way, you could buy lights in different temperatures forever, right? They've had them, but we now can control them, and so that adds. There's some chat coming in about what the right K is for these lights, right? But now that we can control them, do you? You know,
yeah.
yeah. Do you tune them?
It'd be kind of cool actually if it adjusted the color of the room based on knowing who is in the room.
How'd you do that? You could do that today, couldn't you?
Well, like if you have your phone on you, for example, and
Yeah.
so let's say you're only in the room
Okay.
and it knows that that's assigned with a color preference, it could just automatically make that change. Because like even like wise bulbs, for example, um, you can set the hue profile. So um, that's kind of an interesting thought in my mind.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
auto adjust colors based on who's in the room and what presets are known about.
Well, and brightness is another level on that of like what's appropriate. When do you want them dim? So as an example, we have a light over the litter box for the cat. We have a light at our front door that Sarah likes on all the time. Both are controllable. Um, but overnight we don't want them burning full blast.
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
so you set them at 50% or whatever, and we're content with them at that. I don't know about you, but our whole house, there's not a spot you can go that doesn't have some kind of light on. Sarah loves lights. And
Yeah.
so we've got lights just about everywhere. When we started doing the solar panel experience, and I was kind of testing to see like could we go mostly off grid, and I started measuring everything, and I said no, we waste. When you're on grid, you just don't have any discipline for like. No, you're just like, no, I want to leave these lights on at certain times or all night, so to speak, or you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. No, it's
yeah,
true.
yeah. Um, the hard part, and John is alluding to this in the chat, is when your house has different temperature lights all over the place and it's not consistent, right? Is that weird? Do
Yes.
you? Yeah.
Yes. Yes. The answer is absolutely yes. Um, and I'm like the biggest defender of it because, like, even in my cave down here, these are the brighter daytime lights. Now they're adjustable, they're dimmable, but they're at the higher color spectrum. And then the stairwell light is back to the candlelight color. So it's kind of
Hmm.
um, uh, it's just strange. I can't say that I thought, oh, when I move in the house, I'm going to find every light fixture and change it to some type of light bulb setting that's consistent or LED. Now we got pretty much rid of all the like incandescents and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
went
Yeah.
straight to the LEDs. But like it's a pretty big spectrum. Like some are wise bulbs, some are just fixed LED bulbs. Um, And
Yeah, well, then that's the thing, right? You get some replacement bulbs, and they're 4,000, let's say, and then but you're not really thinking about it. Then the next time you're like, oh, you get a couple bulbs in there, 3,200,
right,
and then well, whatever, I'm gonna put them in, and then you start like, oh, these weren't the same, these weren't, and then you start buying bulbs from you got some Hue bulbs, you got some Whiz bulbs, you got some Wise bulbs, you got some, and then you're figuring what apps do I need to pull them all together? And the
I need the bridge, connect all the different companies. Yeah, it's kind of tough. That's actually one of the things that I think makes home automation or just like enhancement both fun and frustrating all at the same time, is that there is a um, saturated market at this point. And so, like, if you think about inner compatibility with the stuff you have, and then do you have buyer's remorse of the things that you do have? And so, how do you deal with that buyer's remorse? Do you try to
yeah,
go multi ecosystem, or you're like, I'm going to throw it out and start over? And
yeah,
I think most people don't want to throw out what they've already
yeah,
invested in.
it's $20.
So then they go to the multi ecosystem, and then they get frustrated that they got to do it 5 different ways to get kind of what they want. Um, but I do think a lot of it is trial and error against people's preferences. Like, for example, I've used a lot of Wise cams and Wise bulbs. I think they're cheap, they're fun. I think they've improved their hardware tremendously since they started. Like, compare a Wise Cam OG to a Wise Cam 4, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, it's like it's not even close to the same product. But then go compare your Wise to like Ring, and I actually think Ring is a bit higher end in total, in terms of the experience. And but like, I'm not motivated in the slightest to throw away all the Wise based stuff I've
No,
bought and go to
no,
Ring. And
no.
I don't want to go to a mixed ecosystem. So what am I going to do? I'm
Uh-huh.
going to keep buying more Wise stuff. uh,
Yeah, yeah,
so you just kind of get into these weird vendor ecosystems within the home automation space, whether it's lights or cameras or garage doors or window blinds, or like, pick your thing.
hmm
It's not, I don't think there's great guidance on how to strategically think about that before you just start buying things.
yeah, yeah. Well, and if you say you started in the ecosystem, 5 years ago, I've got a bunch of Hue bulbs that I mixed in with some Whiz bulbs, and you're like, those Hue bulbs were expensive
Yes.
when I first bought them, right?
Yep.
And then you're like, well, you don't want to just throw away a good light. Why would I throw away a good light? You know, um, here's the other obsession with this, Christian. Since I started doing solar, I started purchasing these. These are
Mhm.
Tapo from TP Link, um, and these monitor the power output. This is how I know those lights.
Yeah.
That 150-foot string is 30 watts because this is indoor, so I went and pulled it off so it wouldn't get rained on. But that's how I know it's 30 watts. You start measuring then all these things too, and
Mhm.
you're like, oh gosh, man, that thing that I leave on actually is a hog, right? It's pulling some power down. Or these lights, maybe some legacy lights that you got outdoors that you plug one of these things into, and you're like, holy crap, that's 120 watts continuous,
Yeah.
running all the time. You start thinking like, okay, does that, you add up enough of those, and you start thinking. Ed Sullivan, who's a good friend of the show, he once I started doing solar, he's like, you're going to measure everything, and then you're going to start turning lights off and leaving lights off so that you're not, because you start making these decisions of like, man, that light's on all the time. That light's 120, 20 watts. This is for some folks, we've put the incandescent bulbs we've replaced on the inside of our house. But when was the last time you checked the outside of your house? Like,
Yes.
those lights almost never go out, but you flip those bad boys on. Yeah, they're a blazing spotlight, but it may be one of those old incandescent or that's probably not the right technology, but one of those older bulbs that's burning at 120, 150 watts. Have you gone around? Have you replaced your outdoor lights too with
We've
um
just started replacing the landscape lights. Interestingly, those like MR16 bulbs, they don't die, they just get really dim over time. They just like
yeah.
slowly go into the ether. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but the floodlights, yes, I've had to replace two. I want to say I replaced both on the side I could climb onto on the roof, and the other side is it's
Yeah.
about there. Like
Yeah.
they work, but it's about there.
Yeah.
So I'll get motivated one of these days to get a giant ladder out and go,
Oh,
not kill myself to do it, but
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not for the faint of heart
No.
activity. So
No. Be
kind of want to
careful,
plan
friends.
to have a day that you can take your time to do it the right way.
Yeah. Yeah, you almost have to think like when you're installing lights. I think sometimes we think about the optimal position for it. So you're like, yeah, if I could just get it up on the peak of the house up there, and you're thinking, friends, that's 2 stories up.
Yeah.
You're going a ways up there, and that bulb's not going to last forever, and you need to find an easy way to, you kind of find a need an easy way to replace that thing.
Hmm.
And so it's yeah, lighting is a challenge, and for the longest time, in fact, Sarah just told me the other day, I have a light in the basement that used to be upstairs. We moved we moved the light stand downstairs to use
Okay.
downstairs. I never changed it from all the upstairs lights. So when I tell the A lady, "Hey, turn off the upstairs lights," that light off downstairs goes off too.
I
Could
love
you
that.
change? Yeah, can you change that? Well, I mean, Christian, those both the A and the G devices are attempting to be. I use Home Assistant as well, and that's another thing. Like, okay, so I put these LePro lights on the house, and they connect with the Amazon Assistant, but not with Home
Mm,
Assistant. And so there's those hub concepts too. Like you're like,
yes.
okay, I need to stay
Yes.
in the ecosystem, or do I?
Are you
You know?
on the plus version of
Yes,
okay, and how
yes.
has that been?
Good. Yeah, not bad. The voice is weird and it changes from time to
Yeah.
time, and I'm not exactly sure who I'm getting. Sometimes I feel like I'm cheating on the old A lady. Like,
Yeah.
hey, where did my girlfriend go? Like,
Yeah.
I was I used to talk to her all the time, and now you sound like you're a teenager.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. Do you see any of that in your work?
Well, uh, no, only because I have the original 1.0
Oh,
Echo
okay.
still sitting in the kitchen, and I'm like,
That's the
wait,
the tube.
yeah, the black tube.
Yeah.
And of course, it's not. Even though I've enabled the account for Plus model,
Yeah.
it's like no.
Yeah.
And so I actually reminded myself how dumb the OG one is just by being like, oh my gosh,
Mm,
like it's pretty rough. Like it's wild. Like if you want to measure how fast technology is moving in this era, just think about how that was considered cutting edge retail consumer technology like what
yeah.
6 7 years ago,
Yeah.
and now it's like people are horrified by that original experience, and so
Yeah.
truly both remarkable and brutal all at the same time.
No, no, right on. But has become, I mean, for a lot of folks, has become their home automation hub,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
A lot of, I think, yeah, I mean, I think if you're a home gadget geek, you may be thinking about Matter. I think for a lot of time we thought about Zigbee and Z-Wave, and then Matter kind of came along, and it's like, no, it's Matter enabled, but most of them are really playing to the Amazon or Google space, right? For the most part in that.
Yep.
And we landed on Amazon a while back for those. And got them all throughout the house. It's hilarious. Sometimes we'll say things, and one completely on the other side of the house will be the one that picks it up. And you're like, um, should should the bedroom have heard that when I was saying it in the kitchen? And why isn't the kitchen one, picking that up?
Right.
But those automations, certainly super helpful. I could have, as we're talking about these LePro lights, I've yet to hook them up to that automation. I just haven't done it yet. It's available. I could go in there. I think that's pretty standard, right? For most of these home devices now, they're defaulting to Amazon or a Google from that standpoint. I put mine on a timer, so I say turn it on when the sun goes down. It kind of makes sense, right? And then turn it off at 10 o'clock. It doesn't need to be running all night. It's fine. It's just for the neighbors when they're coming home from work kind of thing, right? But there's all kinds of different automations you can do with those pieces,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
100%.
So, yeah. Well, home lighting you're right. This is one of those things when you're thinking about like, should I standardize? And then it's like, that's like another purchase plus.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. Not a cheap dude.
Yeah. If you were going to standardize on something, what do you think? Where do you think you'd go today? Would you go Wise just because you have that infrastructure that's in place, or what would you do?
That's a good question. I have used both the Hue and the Wise the most. In general, I feel that the concept of having to have a bridge is kind of antiquated, but I don't know that it's not like a big deal to plug it in your network and let it sit and run at the same token. So,
yeah, they're pretty efficient.
Yeah. But I don't. It's gonna sound horrible, but like they both are lights and they kind of do the basic thing and they connect up and they occasionally get firmware updates. And so I don't know that I have like I said, I don't have a strong dog in the fight on a brand. Once I get locked into a brand, it's harder to want to change. But I don't know that I probably would value cost differential more than anything because I'm not, and reliability. I would say the one thing that I think is a little bit weird about Wise is I frequently find there are a bit of timing delays between when the app sees a device is on or offline and the actual device, which I find annoying sometimes. And like maybe that's my network, but like I have a Wi-Fi 7 network on multi-gig. So like if a Wi-Fi 7 with really good coverage can't do it, like what can? Now I know a lot of those IoT devices and smaller devices are all on 2.4 gigahertz still. And so
mandatory in some cases. They're like, don't put this on 5.
Right. And so that's intriguing. But ultimately like 2.4 is a better range, but inherently less like reliable channel to use. So, I'm sure every one of those apps have their quirks. The other thing that I find is worth evaluating is how easy are the devices that, like, for most part, any of these devices will integrate with like Alexa Fine or with Hue or HomeKit or anything that you really want. So that used to be a differentiator, and I don't really think it is anymore. Most of the protocols have kind of gotten the support that they need. So yeah, long way of saying that who you end up picking first biases you quite a bit. I think I probably index on cost more than anything else. And the experience with Wise has been pretty good. I don't know that I would say it's been life-changing, but it's gotten, it's done what I've needed it to do, and their hardware has gotten better over the years. So
you mentioned firmware, which, as I think about the devices I bought just in the TP-Link space. So it was TP-Link at first, and then they became CASA, C-A-S-A, I think is what it was. Now they've changed to Tapo, and those all had various apps. Some of them work cross-app. Some of the apps I never reinstalled after I got a new phone. Like, and then you were like, these devices are dependent on the apps for the firmware updates because you set them up with your phone in most cases, and you gave them the So you're going into the app. You can kind of start losing track. I think I probably have 25 devices of some kind, a plug, a light, uh, you know, those kinds of things. I'm not constantly checking for firmware updates on those. Should I be? And then should I be locking those things down so they can't call home?
My general view is if you have them on a IoT guest network and you have that guest network pretty locked down in terms of what it can get out to on the internet, that the risk of being behind on a firmware update is probably not the end of the world. That said, technically, like a wise bulb, for example, each wise bulb is IP addressable. So any one of those light bulbs that gets compromised because there's like a Bluetooth vulnerability or a network issue or whatever is technically a foothold on that network. So if you're going to be smart about it, just I would say like DMZ it off onto an IoT network and restrict it to talking to what it needs to connect up to the cloud for that brand. And then like, yeah, the attractiveness of like from a security perspective of attacking that hardware gets pretty minimized.
The other day, I was looking at the Wi-Fi networks that were in the neighborhood, and some of these devices turn on to a Wi-Fi network
Yeah.
right away. Right?
Yeah.
They expose that. Now they're getting. It seems to me, I could be wrong. Seems to me they're getting away from that in favor of Bluetooth. Then you get into it via Bluetooth and set up the Wi-Fi access that way. It seemed to me I could be totally wrong on that, but I still saw 40 Wi-Fi networks of various printers and just various. It was probably not 40. Let's probably say it was 15, right? But
Yeah.
still a lot. I
It
remember when we
is.
used to, drive around looking for insecure networks. And now it's easy. You're just like any neighborhood, you're like all these, and they're not open, right?
Right.
But they're broadcasting, right?
Yeah.
Stuff that, yeah.
Yeah. I think
Is that
most.
is that worrisome?
Um, Not necessarily. I mean, broadcasting doesn't really shouldn't bother anyone as much as like, are you on WPA3 and like, what's the credential look like? I don't know how many people are still into like the old school days of like people were driving like down the street, like breaking web encryption, and that was a time.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because like, in my opinion, internet is pretty ubiquitous at this point, and so
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you got to be up to some pretty sketchy stuff to want to be like, oh, free Wi-Fi from my neighbor by cracking their uh, router when like go get a 5G pod in your house for 30
Right.
bucks a month. And
Yeah.
so it's like,
Yeah.
if that's no longer like, if we've gotten to economy of scale where people can like chill for a second and just go get some basic service, then the residual reasons for why one would want to hack on a Wi-Fi network are get increasingly sketchy. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, right on. And I don't, I see my neighbors, and I haven't even thought of like, I wonder if that's open. I think we are, in those early days, I think it was open by ignorance.
100%.
And right. And I don't you think we're pretty much past that? I mean, I
Yeah,
think
I do.
all of the devices are closed by default, and
Most consumer devices are closed by default. I think the
yeah,
biggest thing that is still kind of just sad is that a lot of consumer devices will get put on networks of public IPs that have horrible vulnerabilities in the firmware, and like
yeah,
end
yeah,
customer has no idea, right? So
right,
like
right.
in many ways, like I worry much less about firmware of like the Wise Bulb. I'd be much more worried about the firmware of your TP-Link acting as your gateway to the internet.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
Yeah,
uh,
true story. Good, probably good to keep those up. Joe says all the open link sys networks.
yeah, I
Right.
just that's a very nostalgic era of having the
Hmm.
stack of Linksys for the 802.11b with like the little file share and the 10
Yeah,
10 100 meg switch, and yeah, they
yeah,
used to make some pretty fun stacks of Linksys hardware, and it's all
yeah,
those days are long gone.
yeah. Pretty much. And yet they're not. There's other things that replace them. Right from that. from that standpoint. Hey, and the remaining time we have left, you shocked the world last time you were on the podcast by saying, "Hey, crypto, maybe I'm paying a little more attention to it from that standpoint." The crypto market has, pulled back. We had a rush back in the spring. It's pulled back this summer. It's quietly kind of coming back right now. Update us on your. It's 2026.
My
What should we be thinking?
2026 prediction is we
Yeah.
will
What?
be all-time highs in
Oh,
Ethereum, and
really?
I'm looking for a minimum of 7,000 price target sometime this summer.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
And
It's 3 right now for anybody not paying attention.
yep.
Right. We're in the 3. So you're saying a double.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's a
Why do you say that?
yeah. So that's a baseball case. I think there's a few things happening that maybe others are either not tracking or not appreciating the value of. So the first is that if you think about the main difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum, two things, right? One is Ethereum has applications and smart contracts, and so it is proving itself as being like, if you have to summarize Bitcoin, it's store of value, but if you have to summarize Ethereum, it's distributed finance, it's DeFi, so or decentralized, sorry. But all of the Wall Street and all of the big money that has been sitting on the sidelines is starting to go on chain with this and build financial products around it. And then you look at what's happening with Ethereum and the fact that it produces a yield. And Bitcoin isn't giving you a yield, it's a store of value. But a company like Bitmine can with their Maven network, stake 30 billion of Ethereum token and produce $500 million a year in yield. So that kind of becomes very interesting all of a sudden, because now you're starting to act like a money market fund or a bank deposit with a annual percentage yield. So now you get to, well, why have big institutions been keeping money on the sidelines, but also starting to invest in the kind of financial layers that make up the layer 2, as well as the stable coins, which is a whole other segment of why I think Ethereum is the long-term winner here. And they're on the sidelines because big financial institutions want nothing more than crystal clear clarity on the rules by which they will play the game. And so the Clarity Act is making its way through markup. It was actually pulled last night. Brian Armstrong, CEO of Coinbase, pulled his support for it. So now they've pulled the legislation back off the docket. But I think they're going to figure this out and get over the finish line. And when that framework does get out and into law, look out, because all this liquidity that's been sitting on the sidelines waiting for rules, the rules are going to be there and the game will be played. And so I think many people understand how volatile crypto is, but I think they don't understand what are some of the moves that create that volatility and price action. And so I think Ethereum is a long-term winner because of some of these unique attributes that Bitcoin won't be able to replicate. The other thing is that from a payment processor network perspective, they are continuously upgrading the Ethereum network and making it faster and making gas fees and congestion get lower. And so like it's as much the future of finance and certain advanced software as anything else that you could try to compare it to. And if you compare it to traditional primitives around like banks or money markets or credit card processor intermediaries, like they all see the writing on the wall. So like it's not a surprise as to like why stable coins are becoming so interesting. And that's before you even get into the tokenization of assets, which is something that also Ethereum uniquely enables as that base layer. Stable coins can come on top and provide tokenization. And so a lot of these arguments that people used to have around like devaluing of the dollar or other assets goes away if they're just going to be tokenized, right? And so that narrative, which for years was extremely speculative, I think is much less speculative and is going to become very real very fast when the regulations are done. And so I think you're seeing the technology nexus arrive. I think you're seeing the players are going to be getting off the sidelines this year. And so I think if you do any technical analysis on Ethereum, very interesting accumulation phase that we've been in. And so I don't think you would see much trouble at all being at 40,000 plus for an Ethereum token by 2030. And that may be a conservative estimate. And so, sure, Ethereum to do well from a price action standpoint, you want to see Bitcoin do well and continue to grow, store, and value. However, if you go and chart the Bitcoin to Ethereum ratio, which measures basically which one is performing better relative to one another's market cap, a technical chart analyst would tell you that there's an inverse head and shoulders pattern on that ratio. And so the expectation from that is that Ethereum will outperform Bitcoin in terms of percentage move. And so even though these two often move in tandem, I expect outperformance from Ethereum. And I think that the longer term value is there as a technologist that, like, don't get me wrong, Bitcoin's the OG, has store value, but I don't know that it's the long-term winner because the applicability to Wall Street, in my opinion, is not nearly as strong because I think financial networks and applications are going to actually be built on chain on top of Ethereum. And I don't see who's got a better moat or better solution that's going to weaken that position.
Yeah. All those things that you're saying, I agree with. What's interesting, the price comparison between Bitcoin and Ethereum a couple of years ago was pretty close, and then of course Bitcoin ran away,
right,
and has gotten much more value. Now that's starting to reverse a little bit. I think both actually can do very well in the space. In today's markets, equities fulfill some side of the market space. That's Ethereum. Gold has the other side, or precious metals, because
silver 90 a share, or an ounce.
It's been on a run, right? Silver has been on a run for sure. That's the Bitcoin side of the market, right? Where you're like, what does gold do? It does nothing, right? But it's a store of value, like what you're talking about there. And so I think we're going to see, of course, both gold and silver have been on a tear over the last 6 months. Typically that doesn't, that pulls back some. But I like what you're saying. John in chat wants to know, it's Christian coin. Remember when we talked about Christian?
Maybe that'll be a stable coin built on top of Ethereum at some point, and I'll do a launch announcement on the show if I get there.
Yeah, right. No, right on. I want to be first in on that one. You talked a little bit about, I have moved some into USDC on Coinbase, and 6 months ago I was getting 4.5% easy. Like I couldn't get if I wanted to move that into the bank, I would have to work hard. Now there were some, during the worst part of the post pandemic, 4.5 at a bank was actually doable. I moved some fiat over to USAA Bank, right? A traditional bank, right? So they're my insurance company, but they also have a bank. And I got 4, which I felt pretty great about. When have you been able to get 4% at a bank? Never. Not in our lifetime. We haven't, like, sure, in the 70s. You can see that, right? But that's pretty much gone. But those USDC or the stable coins were offering some of those, and I didn't take out a second mortgage, but I had some savings that I was able to move over there. Now, as that follows the US interest rate profile, right? And so we're at 3.5, the Treasury Department or the Federal Reserve, and that's come down each time they've announced a rate cut. The USDC has cut that rate on me in Coinbase, and it makes sense, right? That they're using treasuries for that, right? They do have some regulations. They got to buy some treasuries with that. That's how they're That's the definition of a stable coin, right? In a lot of ways, which is good. Like I like to see stability in that space because I think it brings some predictability. And that's really what the market wants, right? The market wants some predictability in what's going to, they don't want somebody running away with this stuff or the
Right.
shenanigans that went on, 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. The
Yeah.
market hates nothing more than how to price uncertainty.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, uncertainty is high risk,
yep,
and some people love that, you know. Some people love that. The listen, the gambling has gotten out a little of hand. What's it?
poly
Poly
market.
what's the poly market, right?
Yeah,
I just heard today you can bet on housing prices now if they
absolutely.
go
There's
up
nothing
or
you can't
down.
bet on poly market. That is the true joy of it.
Here listen, here's what's been interesting with that, and I want to get your take on this. I I have traditionally been I pulled my hold on, I pulled my headphones out. There we go. I have traditionally not been a fan of gambling. But one of the things is I've been listening to the Wall Street Journal podcast is that we look at poly market and let's just say housing prices. Yes, okay, a little crazy to be betting on housing prices, but it actually gives us in some regards a better view of the housing market because it's because
100%.
these right these
It's
bets are an
it's
indication of how people are feeling about it, right? Or actual stats, right? I don't know, talk about it. What do you think about that?
it's a very strong sentiment indicator. It's not unlike how, all the polls predicted one outcome in 2024 and Polymarket predicted a case that was pretty much in the stratosphere of low probability for traditional polling data, but from Polymarket standpoint, it was the most probable outcome. And so I think that when people have to put money on the line, all of a sudden a lot of the noise in the data gets real cleared out, and people are like, yeah, like not just like gambling in terms of like roll dice and see if you get a double snake eye and you win a buck, but like actually put money on the table based on a logically reasoned outcome of why you think a certain thing will or won't happen, and then wager against that, and then multiply that by the number of people that want to participate in that wager. And that is an extremely powerful sentiment signal. And in some ways, for people that do, you know, um, investment in even traditional equities, and there's macro, fundamental, and technical, and but a lot of those are still educated bets that you go into, and then conviction is the only thing that distinguishes a bet that fleshes you out from a bet that pays a reward. And so, um, not quite unlike, yeah, poly market for me, because a lot of them are date
Yeah,
bound
yeah.
too. Like the
Right,
bet
right.
is this certain definition of condition by X date. And that almost sounds like an option contract to me.
Okay. Yeah.
Almost sounds
No.
exactly like an option contract
Yeah.
to me. And then, of
Yeah.
course, you're paying with it and betting with it in crypto. So it just makes it all the more
Yeah.
amusing how it's just to me, it's almost like it's just a different financial instrument that happens to be more intellectually interesting.
Well, any system can be gamed. So everybody's always like, "Well, what about the fraud?" It's everywhere, right? You're gonna have moments where
Yep.
systems are gonna be gamed. I mean, we may be the last 2 years, let's just say the last year, may be the most insider trading we've ever seen in any
100%.
right? Just because the gloves are off and it's out of control, right? And so but in some of these markets, like you said, because you're betting with something that matters, you can't just do it. Like when things are free, they don't work
Right.
for the most part, right?
Right.
But when you're putting your money up, all of a sudden now you're getting there's some stake, right? I mean, it's the same thing that when we stake in crypto, it's the
Yes.
same idea,
Yep.
right? You're saying, "No, no, I'm gonna put my money on this, and I'm gonna leave it there for whatever length of time." Ethereum staking doesn't require any kind of commitment. You just do it. Now it's 2%, but it's still staking, right? I
Yeah.
think there's to your point about Ethereum. I mean, I don't know what the latest figure is on the stake, but there's a lot of it being staked on Ethereum, and that is a signal in itself, right? You're like, no, no, this is people who've put money. This is value in on this, and so yeah, it was the first time I thought, because I hear these gambling stories and I'm like, oh, come on. Are you kidding me? Like, this is the dumbest. And then as they were talking about the housing market today, I'm like, oh, actually, that may not be, when we're trying to get market data on housing prices, that may be a really super clear indicator, especially as we think about October when the government shut down for 45 days or whatever, eventually, whatever it ended up being. And we can't get government data. That may be the next, I hate to say the next best, because it still might be the best source.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, even the government data is dependent upon certain polling of certain information from certain people in certain places. And when the U.S. government shuts down, we're not getting that data. Well, maybe Polymarket's the place to go to get that data, right? From a, do they? I wonder if they bet on unemployment, the unemployment numbers.
I don't know what they don't bet on at this point. We'll put it that way.
No, right on, right on, right on. It was just that was a great listen. That was a. There's not too many times in life where you have a moment where you change your mind on something, and I had it that moment because I've been hearing about this poly market, and listen, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to bet on those things. It's just
Yeah.
not what I want to do. But as they were talking about this, and a guy came on, and he was like, "Yeah, this may be the best indicator of actual housing prices because people are thinking of because it causes people to think, it causes people to research." And when I mentioned this the other day, insider trading, it may actually flush out insider trading because the market, if you're betting that way, all of a sudden, when the bet goes wild that way, what's going on here? Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It is almost an open sourced, like if all of a sudden there's big bets coming in a certain way when it doesn't make sense, right? As long as those ledgers are open, right? As long as we can see the ledgers. And I think that's maybe a little bit what's different here. I don't know. It was just an interesting thought. I don't know. You have any other thoughts on that?
No, we live in exciting and interesting times in this space, and
Yeah.
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 Also, Polymarket as a news source is actually really interesting to me because if you
Mm.
subscribe on X to the Polymarket channel, they'll do like breaking news on certain like things and bets, but like they're very relevant to like world news and events. So that has been actually a more interesting way for me to consume and engage. It'll be like now 51% are thinking X. And so like that's a very interesting signal in and of itself to get in your
Yeah.
feed. So
Listen, I work for a polling company. This is super interesting, right? Because the challenge is always to get a representative sample.
yeah, now
Right.
instead of a call center, you have people putting money on the line at high percentage. It's like kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not saying that's a representative sample,
Right.
but it's interesting, right?
That is
You know?
actually very true. You are correct that the people that would be making bets on Polymarket may not be a representative sample by
Yes.
any means.
Yes.
However,
Yeah.
they're a very interesting community of ideas. So
Well, they may even be the most engaged
right,
in it, right? I mean, it's just listen, it just brings up it's super interesting. Again, it's a little bit of a new I haven't thought all the way down this space, but it's been a little bit as I was listening to this and I'm like, "Oh, like wait a minute." Okay. I've always just brushed this off as like that's stupid gambling stuff. Like, why would anybody? I'm not a big gambler. I'm not a big fan of that. Although we say that, listen, even those of us who aren't gambling, when you buy your house and you take out a mortgage, you're gambling on a certain time that you're getting a certain interest rate at that time, whether it's going to go up and down at another time, right? Now, some people would say that's not a gamble, but we spend more time than you think gambling on stuff. I'm not a traditional gambler. I don't like doing it. It's not my favorite thing to do. But these ideas of people betting, large amounts of people betting on an outcome of something that they're interested in is a signal, you know? And so you're kind of, for the first time, I was like, oh, okay, I'm not going to do this, but this could get really, really interesting.
yeah,
This could get really, Really, I've always been intrigued by how Vegas gets the football. They get that right all the time. Like you're like, how do they get the spread so right? And we may have a Vegas spread for world events or for economic indicators, some of those kinds of things. I don't know. I'd love to dialogue with you on that. I don't know how I feel or think about that. I'm just starting to think about that way. But Christian, thanks we didn't plan on talking about that, but it's
Yeah,
always good to
anytime.
spend some time catching up with you. Anything new Maple Grove Partner before I let you go? Anything new at Maple Grove Partners? You guys still just plugging
Chuck along.
along, providing great high speed
That's right.
storage
That's right.
from people that you know and you trust.
We hope you trust. Yeah.
Nice. Still plugging along. Well, good. Anything else new before I cut you loose?
I bought Microsoft Flight Simulator, or I received Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, and I can perfectly. It's the first. Let everyone be known. It is the first application that actually does something with the rig I built back in 2020 that was super overpowered, right? So like, my graphics card actually has something useful to do on ultra mode now because I can actually use it to fly all of my instrument procedures in practice, and I have the Cessna 172 layout there. I can do all the practice approaches. Like, it's actually really great. So I got the Logitech hardware, which is like, it's middle grade stuff. It's nothing like to write home about, but the actual Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, pretty radical, and it has extremely realistic aerodynamics.
Maps are crazy, right? The maps are crazy.
The maps are crazy accurate. You can use real live traffic. It's really cool.
What I want, so I tried Flight Simulator back during the pandemic. I built this really sweet rig, I think 2023. 120 gig of RAM. It's got a Ryzen 5. It's got a 3060 in it. I mean, it's good for me, right?
Yeah.
Not the top, but good for me. And I downloaded Flight Simulator, and I just couldn't. I didn't have the patience or the ability. What I really want is the AI version of Flight Simulator, where I say, okay, I want to take off from this airport. Let's go to 10,000. I want to have the mic, and I just would say, okay, 10,000 feet. And then, okay, let's go to 15,000 feet. Turn left and head on this course. I need a navigator. I need Sulu being my navigator on that thing. I need to be Captain Kirk.
I love that.
And I need Sulu. Can I do that in Flight Simulator? Is that something
you
can do?
You can definitely dial it down to the dummy mode that doesn't use the real aerodynamics for a given plane. So you can make it so that it's like, oh, I'm immediately crashing. You can avoid that, but I have not tried to put it in dummy mode because I need it in real world flight conditions for it to be useful for me.
I don't want to actually fly. I mean, I want to fly. I want to tell it where to go, but I don't want to actually do any of the necessary.
That's crazy.
Pilot stuff.
That's crazy.
How cool would that be? Because I want to fly over Rome, or I want to fly to Moscow, or I want to but I don't want to do any of the hard work of figuring out how to trim and autopilot and all of that.
Just punch in an airport code, crash on approach, and then it'll reset you in the sky, and then just kind of fly straight and level, and you'll be fine.
Crash on approach.
Yeah.
Listen, I crashed a lot when I had Flight Simulator running. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. Well, so that, no, I can't it's not AI-ified to where I can just say, I want to fly. I want to go to San Jose International Airport, charter a flight to Tokyo.
I mean, you can definitely punch those in as source and destination airports and pick out the plane you're going to go in.
Push buttons.
Yeah. That's the simulator part of it, instead of maybe you need to ask the Xbox Game Studios to make a Microsoft Flight Tour. It's like the touring edition of.
Well, what got me thinking of this was you can go to Google Maps, and I can go to Omaha, and there's a flyover.
Yeah.
Right. They have a flyover mode, and I was like, well, this is cool, but what if I could control it? I'm like, no, I want to control it with my voice. or whatever, right? Super simple controls. I don't want to set trim and spare speed and all those kinds of things. I want to
Taking
just
all the fun out of it, man.
for you, maybe. I don't
Yeah.
want to do it.
Yeah.
I know you're doing real pilot stuff. So good for you on that one. But okay, I'll keep looking. Listen, if you're out there listening and you got a way for me to do this on Flight Simulator, that's actually something I'd I'd come home and I'd be like, you know what? I'm gonna do a flyover of Dallas Fort Worth, right? And I'm just gonna fly around, just bank, see all the
Amazing.
things. Wouldn't
Truly
it be great?
amazing.
It'd be awesome. Do some loopity loops, whatever. Anyways, Christian, thanks for coming out tonight. Always great to see you. Always great to have you. Thanks for 15 years, man. Thanks
Yeah.
for hanging out with me. We'll do a
Thank
few
you.
more here on the network. I had full transparency. I'd kind of planned. I was going to wrap up Home Gadget Geeks that night. I was going to be like, you know what? I think I'm going to take a long, break. And so I was headed that direction. And then as I got into December, I was like, yeah, no, I don't think I'm gonna. I think I'm having, I don't know. I have such a good time doing this and hanging out with people. So I was like, well, I'll take a couple weeks off. I took 4 or 5 weeks off. We'll come
Mhm.
back and do it again. So here we are. And Christian, thanks for being my friend over the years. It's been
100%.
great to hang out with you. Can you hang out with me for 1 second? We'll
Yeah.
close it up.
Yeah.
Okay. Just a couple reminders on the way out. If you want to join us in the Discord group, and it's not a very busy one, but it is one. If you want to join and got some questions, we've got some deals from time to time. The folks are dropping in deals out there. You can add up to the averageguy.tv/Discord. And then don't forget the averageguy.tv platform, both web and media hosting. We've been talking about this a couple times tonight, powered by Maple Grove Partners. Get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from people that you know and you trust. So for more information, lots of plans. Still $10, Christian, to get something rolling out there.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. That's the best. Listen, it's cheap now. Like
Yeah.
you're not finding that anywhere.
Yeah. Prepay annually, $10 a month.
Yeah. MapleGrovePartners.com. Christian will do just about anything for you. He'll get it locked in. We got a couple shows lined up. Aaron Lawrence is coming back here in a couple weeks. I got a special guest from the spacesafe.com talking about, let me see. Hold on. Let me pull this up really quick. There's a whole new line of home safes that got some technology built into them. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. I've kind of gone back. Every once in a while, somebody will reach out to me and say, hey, can I come on the show? And I said, yes. So Oscar's going to join me next week, and we're going to talk about that. Andrew Morris, speaking of 15 years, Andrew Morris, you remember that guy, right, Christian?
Mhm.
Andrew's joining me. I was speaking with him the other day. He's coming back in February. And then Aaron Lawrence is coming back on the 19th. She got booted by the internet when she was here in November. We were talking about Black Friday stuff. So we'll have her back on. We are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Well, not every, but most. 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern out here at the averageguy.tv live. Be back here in a week or so with more stuff for you. Christian, again, thanks again. We'll see you guys next week. If you're joining live, stay around for a little tiny short post show. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody. All right, friends. When I said really short, I meant like 30 seconds.
So short.
Yeah. So for those of you who are left, bust out. Good to see you, John. I think I said Joe. Tony was out here a little bit earlier. Thanks for coming out. We'll see you guys next week. Come out. Like I said, I got this special guest from thespacesafe.com, thespacesafe.com coming out, talking about about safes. And I thought it'd be kind of fun to see what's going on in that world.